In this lesson, we will learn about Active Directory Group Policy Inheritance. First, we will learn about Group Policy Inheritance rules. Then we will create three different group policies to set desktop wallpaper and link them to site, domain, and OUs. After that, we will verify group policy inheritance. And finally, we sum up our lesson with the keynotes. Here is group policy inheritance rule. A group policy is applied to the upper level of the Active Directory structure will be inherited in the lower levels. The first level in the AD structure is site. A GPO linked to a site applies to all users and computers when they logically belong to the site. Therefore, site policy is not reliable and rarely being used in production environment. The second level in the AD structure is domain. A domain contains OUs and containers. A policy assigned to a domain will be inherited by all the containers and OUs in that domain. And the third level in the AD structure is OU. An OUs may contain one or more child OUs. A policy assigned to an OU will be inherited by all the child OUs. Here we are in the Group Policy Management Console on the domain controller CPVDC11, and we are connecting to the domain hq.itlifeskills.local. As you can see, no sites show up in the Group Policy Management Console. To show all the sites, we need to right-click on the sites icon and click on Show Sites. Then click on Select All and click OK. Now all the sites show up. Let's link an existing GPO to Chicago site. To do that, we need to right-click on Chicago sites and click on the Link an existing GPO option. However, the Link an existing GPO option is grayed down. This is because the domain admin in the child domain hq.itlifeskills.local that we use to open the group policy management console does not have the link GPO permission on the site. Let's fix that. Now to grant the permissions, we need to log on to the domain controller CPVDC01 and open Group Policy Management Console. Then to grant the permission on a site, we need to select that site, and in this case is Aurora. Then click on Delegation tab, and as you can see, the permission is Link GPOs. Now click Add and select the child domain hq.itlifeskills.local, then click OK. And here we type in domain admins, then click on check names, then click OK. Now let's repeat the same step for Chicago site. So click on the Chicago site and click Add and click location and change the location to the domain hq.itlifeskills.local. Then we type in the domain admins, then click on check names, then click OK, and we can repeat the same step for Elgin site. So here we change the location to hq.itlifeskills.local and type in domain admins, then click on check names and click OK. That's it. We have just granted the link GPO's permission for the domain admins of the child domain hq.itlifeskills.local for all three sites. I prepared three wallpapers to use in creating user group policy to set desktop wallpaper to link to site, domain, and OUs. Let's open the site wallpaper. As you can see, it has the site GPO to identify it is set by the group policy linked to the site. Let's close it and open the domain wallpaper. And in the domain wallpaper, it has domain GPO to identify it is set by the GPO linked to the domain. Let's close it. And as you can figure it out, in the OU's wallpaper, it has OU GPO to identify it is set by the GPO linked to the OUs. Let's close this. Now, before setting the policy, we need to copy these three wallpapers in a share folder. And in this case, we will copy it to the sysvol share folder on cpvdc11. So here we type in cpvdc11, then hit enter and click on the sysvol share folder and click on the domain and create the new folder image. So here we type in image and then we copy the three wallpapers into it. That's it. Here we are in the group policy management console on CPVDC11 and we click on the group policy objects and let's create a new user group policy to link to the site. So in the name we type site user policy, then click OK. After that, we will disable the computer configuration because this policy is a user configuration. And let's create the group policy to link to the domain. So here we type in domain dash user dash policy, then click OK. And similarly, we will disable the computer configuration. And finally, we will create the group policy to link to the OUs. So in the name, we type in OU-user-policy, then click OK. And we also disable the computer configuration. That's it. Now we need to configure the site user policy to set desktop wallpaper. To do that, we need to right-click on the GPO and click on Edit. Then we expand the policy user configuration and expand the administrative templates and click on desktop, then click on desktop again. Here we need to double click desktop wallpaper to open it and click on enable. Then we need to get back to the sysvol share folder and copy the path and paste it into the wallpaper name and point it to the site.jpg file that we copy, and we keep the wallpaper style as center. Then we need to expand this window to click on the OK button, and we need to close this window. That's it. Now we need to repeat the same steps to configure the domain user policy to set desktop wallpaper. First, we need to right-click on the GPO and click on Edit and expand the policy user configuration and expand administrative templates and click on Desktop and click on Desktop again and double-click on Desktop Wallpaper and click Enable, and we need to paste the path and point it to domain.jpg file and click on OK. That's it. Let's configure the OU user policy to set desktop wallpaper using the same step. Now let's right click on the GPO and click on Edit and expand the policy user configuration and expand administrative templates and click on desktop, and now double click on desktop wallpaper and click on enable. Then we paste the path and point it to the ou.jpg file and click OK, and that's it. Now let's link the GPOs to their locations. First, we need to link the site GPO to Chicago site. To do that, we need to right click on Chicago site. And as you can see, the link an existing GPO option now available. Let's click on that and click on Site User Policy and click on OK. Now let's link the OU GPO to the user's OU. To do that, we need to right click on the user's OU and click on link an existing GPO, and we select the OU user policy and click on OK. And finally, we will link the domain GPO to the domain hq.it/liveskills.local, and we need to right click on the domain and link an existing GPO and select domain user policy and click on OK. That's it. Now let's verify group policy inheritance. First, we need to verify it on Chicago side. To do that, we need to click on the Chicago side, then click on group policy inheritance. Here we see only one GPO, which is site user policies applied because it is linked to the Chicago site. Next, we need to verify it on the domain hq.it/liveskills.local. So we need to click on the domain, then click on the group policy inheritance. Here we see two GPOs, the default domain policy and the domain user policy, because they are linked to the domain. Finally, let's verify the group policy inheritance on the user's OU. So we need to click on the user's OU. Here we see that only one GPO, which is OU user policy, linked to it. Now let's click on group policy inheritance. So beside the OU user policy, we also see the default domain policy and domain user policy. We know that these two policies are not linked to the user's OU, but they are applied to the user OU because of the inheritance. Also, after checking, we find that the site GPO does not show up in the inheritance list because the site GPO only applies to all users and computers when they logically belong to the site. Therefore, we have to check on the computers belong to the site to see if the policy applied. Now, let's look at the precedent. As you can see, it has order 1, 2, and 3, where 1 is the highest priority and 3 is the lowest priority. The precedent controls which settings will be applied when conflict happens. The settings of the GPO with higher priority will override the settings of the GPO with low priority. So in this case, when conflict happens, the settings on the OU user policy will override the settings on the default domain policy and domain user policy, and the settings on the default domain policy will override the settings on the domain user policies. That's it. Here we are on Win10 PC01 computer. Let's verify which site this computer belongs to by using this command. So we just need to hit enter. As you can see, this computer belongs to Chicago site, which means the site user policy will apply to users who log on to this computer. Now let's trigger the group policy update on this computer by using the command gp update /force, then hit enter. Finally, let's verify which group policies are applied to the users who log on to this computer by using the command gp result /or, then hit enter. Here we are at the user setting, and for the user Pamela Srini, as you can see, there are three group policies, which is OU user policy and domain user policy and site user policy. We know that only the OU user policy is linked to the OUs where the account of Pamela Srini is created. However, the domain user policy and site user policy are also applied to Pamela Srini account because of the inheritance. This is the end of this lesson. Let's read the keynotes.